So close you can see it. So subtle your mind can't understand it. So simple you can't believe it. So good you can't accept it. That's Loch Kelly from his book, Shift into Freedom. Welcome to Letting Go and the Greatest Secret, where we explore the end of your suffering and the beginning of lasting happiness. I'm Hale Dwoskin, and today we'll be talking to Loch Kelly, who is featured along with me in Rhonda Byrne's book, The Greatest Secret. Loch Kelly authored the award-winning book, The Way of Effortless Mindfulness. He is a licensed psychotherapist and recognized leader in the field of meditation and awakening. He founded the nonprofit Open-Hearted Awareness Institute. He also collaborates with neuroscientific research on compassion and awakening at Yale and NYU. One of the things that Rhonda talks about in The Greatest Secret is that awareness is the key.
Yeah.
And I know you agree with that. So how would you describe that in your own words?
Yeah. Well, I'll start simply and then kind of play a little bit with
Good. Play away.
different types of awareness.
Sure.
Because most of us think of awareness as our attention. And in fact, even in what's called basic mindfulness or deliberate mindfulness, you bring your attention to your breath or you bring your awareness to your breath. And that type of awareness is attention, and it's kind of one-pointed and it's coming from our small mind. And the awareness that you and I and Rhonda are talking about is actually it's a more spacious and pervasive awareness. It's kind of 360-degree panoramic, open-minded and open-hearted feeling that many people can experience when they're doing something they love, like walking in the woods. You drop out of the small sense of self and this small, even attentional ability into what feels like an interconnected type of awareness that's prior to thought, that is what babies have when they're aware. And it's also what's called wisdom mind. So all that is descriptive, but I know what you and I do is more prescriptive, in other words.
Right.
So you need to feel the difference between that kind of focused, blinder, attentional awareness, which is very useful at times, but when we're actually in a flow consciousness, flow state, you're aware from this spacious, pervasive awareness that then can focus locally from the field of awareness. What feels like a field isn't spaced out, but is kind of dropped from head to heart space. And we can kind of play with that a little bit to see what that's like. But this awareness that is intelligent, invisible, awake, and from which thought and sensation arise made of awareness. So I think that's one of my unique types of pointers, is that it's not just the pure big sky awareness that's like a movie screen in which everything comes and goes. But when you discover this pure awareness, you then, as that pure awareness, can discover that thoughts, feelings, and sensations are not other, are not two, and it's more like an ocean of awareness that's interconnected with everything, so that if something arises, pleasant or unpleasant, it's just a wave within your consciousness. So you can stay embodied rather than the first stage, which some people get stuck in, which I call the witness protection program.
Exactly. You go, I have to hold on to this state. It's going to go away. Right. The witness protection program.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah. So the unique thing is that discovery of awareness-based knowing, rather than thought-based knowing, rather than small self, is called awakening. That shift from small mind to nature of mind, from small self to no self, to true nature or true self, from emotional heart and polarities and dualistic thinking to non-dual, which is not just oneness, but is multiple, is both and. which is the awareness that the polarities arise within. That's called awakening. And awakening, I feel, is the next natural stage of human development. And then it's used to be thought of as if you had to be an Olympic athlete of meditation or join a monastery or go and live in a cave. But as many of us are finding, it literally is like a stage of development that you can have a glimpse immediately, that you can discover and uncover this natural, already installed operating system, and then learn slowly, like you would any new stage, to recognize it more easily, to live from it, and that it's immediately healing and gives you the capacity to be with trauma and with strong emotions because it has such capacity of love and kind of a bigger holding field of unity rather than having to try to deal with emotions from a small ego center or point of view, even a mindful meditator.
Yes, very well said. Thank you. I sometimes I kid around with people a lot, as you might have noticed. I just think humor is actually another way to access that, or
Yes.
to fall into that awareness. People don't realize that when they laugh, sometimes they just fall out of the rational mind. It just
Yes.
disappears.
Yes.
And one of the things I sometimes say in my retreats is I say, oh, someone's crying. I sometimes say, well, can you see that's just wet awareness?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Beautiful.
in seeing that, it's actually perceivable.
Yes.
Seeing that, they'll start to giggle and realize, oh no, that's just wet. It's not different. It's just wet
Yes.
awareness.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah. And that's such a, in the particular tradition that I started with, Mahamudra and Dzogchen style Tibetan, they make that very clear distinction that it's not just pure awareness that is the final revelation. It's often one of the first shifts, but that it's this inseparable pair of awareness and aliveness, or this same taste of awareness that's arising as wet awareness, as crying, laughing, anger, fear are just these waves in the ocean of this human experience. And that gives us more fullness and intimacy. So the goal is, being an awake human is not transcending emotions, as sometimes you get stuck in that first observing consciousness. I have no emotions. Yes? Would you like some tea? All tea is the same,
Well, that's not sustainable.
Yeah, it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of interesting move to let go or surrender, but then what's letting go and what's surrendering, and then what is it discovering? So
Yes.
I talk about a couple different ways of doing that, but
Yeah, actually, would you do some of them?
Sure.
I just think the people listening to this will love it. And by the way, this is a podcast, even though we're videotaping it, and we're going to find a way to make the videos available
yeah.
too.
Oh,
But
yeah.
initially,
Okay.
it's
All right.
all audio.
Okay.
So if you can, see if you can describe
Yes.
it in a way that someone who doesn't have the video
Got it.
can
Yes,
get it
I'm
to the,
very visual. I'm like, my heritage is Irish, but everyone thinks I'm Italian or something because I got like the whole hand
I
motion.
understand. I do that a lot too. I wave my hands around when I'm talking.
And I
I
kind
think
of
it's my Jewish heritage. Yeah.
I illustrate, dropping like awareness being identified, and then it opens to space. All right, let's do one that's more of an inquiry style.
Sure,
One,
do whatever you want. And honestly,
Yeah.
I've seen your videos, and
Mhm.
I think with just a few extra words, you could even communicate the things that are more visual.
Yes.
But do whatever you feel comfortable with. I want people to get a sense of how beautiful and effortless
Yes.
you show people how to shift from that more contracted, you call it mini me, which I love. It's just adorable. But how to shift from that focus on this mini me that's behind your eyes feels like,
Yeah.
to this more broad way of interacting with life that's not constricted, or it's boundless actually. So
Yes.
just go for it and take us wherever you want.
Okay. All
I'm
right.
game.
All right. I'll start with one that's a little more inquiry style,
Sure.
and then I'll, do some others as we go along. So the first one is just to say, as you said, people, even when I ask somebody like, well, where are you aware from? And they'll say, well, me. No, I'm saying like, really, like, look, like, where are you hearing from? Where you're seeing from? Can you find that constellation of consciousness that feels like me? And often people haven't looked because they're looking out from it,
Yes.
from this small sense of self. And they're able to look from the small sense of self to emotions, to things outside themselves, even, do mindful meditation of the breath from that small self. But that constellation of consciousness is a function, like an ego function, that is part of who we are, but doesn't have to be the center.
Right.
And so that thought going to thought, creating the thinker and creating this feeling, I think, therefore I am,
Right.
which is where our culture is kind of stuck, even the,
Yes.
the intellectuals, let alone just average, everybody who just walks around going to school and having to say, compare and contrast this with that. And you're using that functional mind to do this problem solving, right?
Right. We
So that
in some
little,
ways, wouldn't you say that we've become talking heads?
that's good. Yes, that's right.
It's not just the media, it's people who've become
Mhm.
talking heads. And, I just didn't even think of this before, especially right now where everyone's communicating through their digital devices. They're not even seeing often the whole body.
Right.
Uh,
That's right.
You're seeing a face. And
Right.
so it feels like faces talking to each other, and people forget that there's a whole embodied experience that is
That's
way
right.
beyond that.
Yeah, embodied. And the unique thing is this kind of flow consciousness or spacious awareness that is within your body at the subtlest level. This is what I call awake awareness, to distinguish it from attention or just, I am aware of that lamp kind of awareness, or even, are you aware that you're aware? Yes. So some people consider that awareness of awareness, but it's actually this more spacious, pervasive awareness that feels like it's boundless and here, and alert without going to thought. So this small self, so I'm just setting up this little inquiry here. So the the usual constellation of consciousness feels like it's in the middle of our head, behind our eyes, looking out, and it's going from thought to thought. And it's looking outside. Is there a problem? Am I safe? So it's connected to our, our body and our survival system and our mind and our functioning. Is there a problem outside? And then how am I feeling inside? Is there a problem inside? So there's a little problem solver that kind of keeps it together. So the inquiry is simply this, that anyone can do in a moment, and I'll lead you through these 4 shifts of consciousness. So just curiously, what's here now when there's no problem to solve?
Nice question.
So just, noticing that you can understand that with your mind, what's here now when there's no problem to solve, then just relax the problem solver and let your awareness open and drop to see what's here. And then to see what's it like to rest as this that's here when there's no problem to solve. And then what's it like to be aware from here and then without going back to thought, to create a small self. What's it like to be aware from here? What's the relationship to sensation, thought, feeling, and the world? So just notice those kind of qualities of space or location. Where are you aware from? Is there a limit or a point of view? And then do you notice that thoughts are coming and going, or could you just shift a little bit to see whether thoughts are actually made of the awareness? So there's a interconnection with thoughts, sensations, and even what you're feeling and looking at in the world. So it's a little more of a interconnection without going back to create a small ego center or manager. And yet, what's it like to be alert without orienting to thought? And yet thought is welcome, emotions are welcome, parts of you are welcome. So that's
great.
a little series.
That's great. Yeah, it's such a simple pointer, but to see how there's no boundary between all the apparent separate objects, including the object of the body, that's a very simple way to help people start to see that. I like that.
Yeah. To really kind of feel not just that there's a kind of dualism from the small self to subject and object, but then even when you shift to that which is aware, when there's no problem to solve, the first meditative stance can be, oh, there's now a new dualism because you're the awareness and everything else is coming and going. So that's two things.
Right.
So this is the unique kind of difference often that's the debates between kind of some of the Advaita and the Tibetans am I just the awareness? Is that who I am and everything else is illusion or is just a movie? Or am I the awareness and everything that arises as aliveness is relatively real because it's arising as this precious human birth?
Yeah, what's nice is a lot of the mini-me or the rational mind thinks in, trying to use your terms, thinks in or.
Yes.
Where the awareness is more about and.
Yes.
And this, and this.
That's right.
And this. And it's just very elegant the way you bring people into that experience. I think it's very useful to remember that there's these boundaries are made up.
Yes, that's right. And even as some people have been in this world of spirituality and non-duality, that some of the, what I called one of my last chapters is called Traps, Detours, and Rerouting Instructions. So it has these little funny little things like Tin Man Awakening, Scarecrow Awakening, Too Much in Your Head,
Right.
Things like that. But just as you said, which is so important, that you can feel like, oh, I'm a body mind. Oh, now I shift. Oh, now I'm in awareness. Oh, I'm only awareness. I'm not my body. So there you go again. There's a either or. So
right.
Then the both and, oh, I'm awareness and my body becomes what's actually meant by emptiness. The word emptiness means there's no separate independent thing. Everything's interconnected.
Right.
And that's what people miss, because most people think even in the spiritual world that emptiness means void, which is kind of a no thingness, which is kind of one of the stages of kind of opening to that invisible stillness, silence, space. But that's really the spaciousness that's arising and interconnected with everything else, with appearances and aliveness and human beingness.
Very well said. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So do you have another one for us? These are fun.
I know. That's right. Yeah,
And
you're like
again,
me. We could just laugh all day. That's the thing.
right.
That's the fun thing, is that because awakening isn't serious business. It literally leads to, in the Mahamudra tradition, they say it's not just the absence of suffering, awakening, but it's the arising of natural positive qualities.
Right.
So it's this joy, it's this love with a capital L, not compassion with a capital C. It's not just human compassion. It's like the fabric of reality is free. And then you're human. Sometimes I say it's like, I feel like I'm a kid on the first day of summer vacation.
Every day.
Every day. Because it's like you get up and you go like, ooh, what can I do? I can do anything. There's nothing I have to do. I can do anything.
Right.
And that, even though you do get up and do the chores and go to work, that spirit of freedom and joy. So there's some bliss, Sat Chit Ananda. It's truth, consciousness, and bliss. There's literally like your body starts to feel like after you've gone for a run or had a massage, or everything starts to be less constricted and contracted because you're not holding from your small mind, bracing against danger.
Right.
So, okay, this is shifting from head to heart mind or heart space. Yeah. So some people find that the door within them is an easier door rather than opening outside.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll do one that goes outside, but this one, so the feeling is as if the center of your awareness is not made of thought, but is made of kind of this field of awareness that then has a kind of local awareness, which is like a globe. And that awareness that's identified with thought and a thinker can simply open into space around you. And just notice what it's like to be aware of space and from space and as space without orienting to thought. And then just notice that this globe of awareness is both outside and within. So it kind of drops to be aware of your jaw and your smile directly from within your jaw and your smile. And then feel as if awareness is moving itself down to your throat and your neck, and feeling the aliveness, the awareness, effervescence, and space within. So you're not looking up to thought to know you're aware directly, and you're not stretching attention down, but you're actually directly perceiving. And then feel that awareness-based knowing drop below your neck into your upper body. So you feel embodied directly. You feel your body from within. And then let that awareness find this safe space, this heart space. That's not your physical heart, not your heart chakra, not your emotional heart, but is this kind of door that goes deep within, this subtlest dimension of your being, and just let the awareness let go into this, which is equally inside and out. So it connects to this boundless heart as it goes deep within every atom. And then just notice that open quality that's deep and open, subtle. So you're aware from this open-hearted awareness, both within and all around. And this is the new location of intelligence, so that the files in the office of your head can be poured back into this field, and you can just use Wi-Fi, and you can stay at home in this heart space almost as if you're feeling out of the eyes of your heart. And then you can receive light through your eyes, which are like a periscope that come down to this heart mind. And so it's a shift of location to this spacious, pervasive, open-hearted awareness. And if you're just letting all your senses, equal rights for all senses, so let all your senses come to this heart mind. And if your eyes are closed, just gently opening and receiving light through your eyes, and feel like you're looking out or connecting through your heart mind, which has the ability to respond. And you could even see what it's like to let your phone number arise to your heart mind. And then enjoy this new view and this new you.
Great. I like that little thing at the end, phone number. Well, it's a good pointer, because you're saying that you can function as heart as opposed to head.
Yeah, that's it.
And you don't have to cut off from rational thought. It actually is clear reason from heart as opposed to contracted reason.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, that's the real beauty of this whole thing, is it's not just about meditation states, and it's not about just calming or de-stressing by doing meditation. It's literally upgrading your operating system, your mind, and your identity. And fortunately, they're already installed. So this awake consciousness is already available. It's not something that has to be developed like a skill, like playing the piano. It just has to be re-recognized and returned to. And then, like a developmental stage, it does take a little learning to return and training to remain.
Right. Yeah, it's already here. It's actually been in charge all along, and we just didn't realize it.
That's it. Yeah, we've been like a little kid in the kiddie seat on the side, thinking we're driving the car.
Right. And again, that goes with mini-me.
That goes with the mini-me.
I just saw this little kid in everyone's head steering a steering wheel that's not attached to anything.
That's right. We're trying as hard as we can to. And the interesting thing in both having this kind of studies of wisdom traditions and psychology is that some of these parts-based psychologies that I've worked with, so you realize that ego function, or that manager, it doesn't have to be killed or gotten rid of or destroyed or bad-mouthed. That managing part of you, or managing mind, is part of the team. And that once you realize, oh, you're not the center, but thank you so much for all the hard work you've done, you really can be very helpful to me in remembering things and when I need you. And meanwhile, otherwise you can relax.
Right. Like we both needed that in order to know we were going to meet at this time to have this conversation.
Yeah. And so it's not the either or, like, oh, I'm no self, I'm a small self. No, I'm no self, No, there's a small self that's part of you. It's just that's not essential who you are, nor is it the center, nor is it the primary dimension. This other dimension, more spacious and energetic, interconnected, multidimensional, and subtler and loving, is something you can learn to live from. And it's really very possible. That's where I think you and I, Hale, are very practical and kind of very try to make it, hey, like I call it the Columbo approach. Like, hey, before I leave, you just notice you're already awake. And it's let's say who you've always been. Okay, see you later.
Right.
So it's learnable, it's teachable, doesn't require joining a religion or neuroscience is supporting it tremendously now, at least showing that these are real brain changes. They're not imagination. So it's really exciting time.
It is. It's really exciting. Can you tell me a little bit about the work you're doing with neuroscience? I think our
Yeah.
audience would like that, and I'm
Yeah.
fascinated. So just
Yeah.
give us a little bit of information on that.
Sure. Yeah. I'll just do a little brief thing and then maybe we'll do another little
Mm,
exercise. So,
please, let's do that. That's
let's,
to me, that's the most fun. But you said it,
yeah.
and I realized there'd be a lot of people who'd be interested in that, and I am too. So
Yeah. The amazing thing is that this awareness, which is the greatest secret, as I've heard
yes, yeah, I've heard
said.
that too.
So it's not, there's no instrument that can measure that.
Right,
There's
that's
no,
true.
it's not about like, oh, we can measure or find or you have to feel that yourself. And there's little pointers or markers that somebody can help you, like, well, do you feel contracted or do you feel open? Do you feel, where are you aware from? But when you're aware from the spacious and pervasive, particularly this awareness that's not just the witness protection or the pure awareness, but the awareness that is equally inside and out, is arising as the aliveness without identifying. Your default mode network of your brain that alternates from distraction to trying to focus on something to daydream, will balance, so you're able to actually be aware of what's going on inside of you and what's going on outside of you, like a seamless whole.
Hmm.
So there's this amazing feeling of, because the mind alternates, they notice these two networks. One looks out, then it looks in, then it looks out, then it looks in. And that's why we get distracted, and that's where we go back to daydream. And they discovered that when you're in daydream, 80% of the time when you come out, it's negative. You feel negative. It was a negative experience because you were trying to find some solution to something and you were worried about something. So when you are aware internally and externally from this awareness, which is equally inside and out, and which doesn't need to manage, then you're in what has been measured or called a flow state or flow consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
where you can optimally function in the world from this sense of less ego. So the part of the brain that's self-referencing relaxes, and then this balance of these networks are shown to be happening. And then you're not just going from alpha state. When they use EEG, they measure this alpha and beta, which goes from being agitated to relaxed in some meditations. But in this awake embodied consciousness, there's this what's called synchronized gamma. And what that is like a perpetual aha. So it's kind of the creative dimension of the brain starts firing. So you feel happy and joyful and creative. So it's not just the first stage of meditation. When you do one-pointed meditation or chanting or mantra, you'll go to the calmer wavelength in your brain. And then when you do this more awake consciousness that's embodied and open-hearted, you start to find that those people who do that go into this synchronized gamma, which is beautifully creative and fun.
Yeah, it sounds
So those are a
great.
couple little.
Well, thank you. It's nice
Yeah.
to know that the science is finding ways to validate
Yeah.
what's direct experience. So that's
Yes.
great.
Yeah. So
That's
it's kind
great.
of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. Sure, it is fun.
Because people, it just helps people not think it's imagination or it's just, well, let's just try to be really happy all the time and just think about that and imagine that, more of the thinking that you have to have a whole religious system in order
Right.
to be supported or happy or embodied or feel the connection to the universe and not be so distracted and separate.
Yes. But again, it's interesting. I'm sure bringing this awake consciousness into religious systems make them come to life too. Because I've heard about and listened to people who are very much part of a particular lineage of either Christian or Buddhist or Hindu or whatever. And they're sharing from this awake consciousness.
Yes.
So it's nice to recognize it it goes everywhere.
That's right. No, it's not limited to,
Right.
but it's also not required. So I think
Yes, that's important to know.
for
Yes.
many people to recognize that.
Yeah, I often say to people, there's absolutely nothing required. There's nothing you need to do and nowhere you need to go in order to be what you already are.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
that's
then
everywhere.
and then working with not only the neuroscience, but then the psychology, having worked with people who have complex trauma. So
Right.
not just normal neurotic people that most of us are or have been in most ways, but people who are in outpatient clinics, living in psychiatric halfway houses. I've worked with, I'll just give you a simple example that they'll say, well, there's a part of me that really wants to hurt myself. And then it says that, is there another part of you? Is there a part of you that is also here that wants to feel better? Yes, there's a little part I can find. And then that's not the answer. The next question is, well, who's aware of both of those?
Right.
And then the person will say, well, I am.
Right.
Well, where are you? Well, I'm kind of like who I always was and am and everywhere. And all of a sudden, you just see that people who are so, have been caught in this traumatic contraction all their life have the ability, unlike some of the psychological belief system that if you didn't have a caretaker that was loving, you couldn't
Right.
access love, that this has now been shown that people have this innate, inherent ability that they can find their true essence.
Yes. Beautifully said. It's important to remember that it's available to everyone, everywhere, always.
Yeah. Yes, that's right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, should we do another experiment?
Yeah. Yes.
Let's go
try.
for it.
Let's try. So let's do this one. So again, we'll start, I think, because one of the key things is when you're contracted is to recognize or feel that pain or that problem or that problem solver, so that you start where you are rather than start like, oh, I have a problem, I better do. It's like, well, where is it? It's in my gut. And where's the problem solver? Oh, it's trying to do it from this small self. So what we're going to do is we're going to move this awareness from being identified or attached to thinking and then have it drop. In Buddhism, thinking is considered the sixth sense. So it's just as easy to say, I hear, therefore I am, or I guess you could say I smell, therefore I am, but I don't know if you want to say that. but the idea is
that could be misinterpreted.
That could be that might be saved for another time.
Right.
But the idea is that thinking isn't who we are. It's a sense. It's an organizing sense.
Yes.
So awareness becomes identified with it and creates this constellation of consciousness. So we're just going to have awareness go from being merged with thinking to seeing, to just let it merge with seeing, just seeing, and then we'll have it just hearing, and then we'll have it open to the furthest place that hearing can happen and just let go until it finds that timeless, boundless, contentless awareness. And then as that awake, effortless awareness, stay open and come back and include everything.
Great.
Yeah. So some people may have just done that right there.
Right. I know. That's all you need. If some people are listening to this, oh, that's
okay,
great.
Well, now what are you going to do it again?
Right. Why not? It felt good.
we got, as long as we're here, we'll try that.
That's right.
So we're, So, and again, it'll, this is at your own pace. So you can even try this again later, slow it down, but just feel that sense of location of thinking. So just aware of a thinker or be aware of thoughts coming and going in a certain area. And then just be aware that awareness is arising as thoughts and identified with thoughts. And that awareness can move from that sixth sense of thinking and just drop to just seeing. So let awareness and seeing without orienting to thought. seeing without a seer. Just notice what that's like. When awareness is alert and is connected to this aliveness of seeing. And then just as that awareness can move itself from thinking to seeing, what's it like if that awareness drops and merges, joins with hearing? So just notice that shift of how the world of hearing opens. Neither what you're hearing nor who's hearing, just hearing. Awareness arising as hearing. Just notice the relief and the simplicity of awareness and the aliveness of hearing. And just as awareness has shifted from seeing to hearing, notice that this awareness can open to the space in the room and then go to, at the speed of awareness, to the furthest place that any sound is happening. Just open to be aware of that space and then go a little beyond sensation, vibration, thought, until it discovers there's an already awake, effortless awareness that it discovers has always been here. Above you, below you, in front of you, to the left and the right, and discovering that awareness has your back. So just let that local awareness join with this spacious, awake awareness, and just notice the contentless, timeless, boundless field of awareness. And then as that awareness, pure awareness, just notice the first vibration and sensation arising like a dynamic field or like an ocean of awareness. So they're simultaneously arising, equally open and within. So just feel as if that ocean of awareness comes back and arises as your body and connects to everyone and everything. So there's a feeling of being here and everywhere and interconnected. Drop down from head to fully embodied heart space and connected to everybody from this open-hearted, alert clarity that doesn't have to go up to create a small sense of self within yourself in order to respond and flow and be optimally connected to create or relate to others. So just getting a feeling of that openness behind your back, awareness has your back, rising as you, this wave in the ocean, and going out of the eyes of your heart to connect to everyone and everything. And just notice that everyone else in the world that you're sending and connected to through this loving field has awareness behind their back. So,
Nice.
That's good, right?
Yeah, I love those. Those are fabulous.
Yeah, and they're fun. They just kind of arise and play with them like little jazz tunes, you know.
Right. So would you recommend people listening to this just play with this?
Yes, that's right. It's fairly simple, you know, these moves, but you have to experience them. Like in traditional Buddhism, it's called the 4 foundations of mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
And then I created the 5 foundations of effortless mindfulness. And what they are is exactly what we just did, but you have to do them. So the first foundation is that local awareness, which is identified, becomes aware of spacious awareness. That's the first foundation. Then it discovers it's aware of itself. That's the second. Then the third is then as that pure awareness, it recognizes that it's not separate from the aliveness and the movement. And then the fourth is it's equally inside and out, that you have a human body that's primarily foundationally arising like ocean and wave, that's embodied and interconnected. And then the fifth foundation is that you're operating from heart, mind, or open-hearted awareness, feeling the field of fabric of love and the intelligence of optimally flowing and able to live from this awake consciousness.
I encourage you to revisit each of the episodes so that all the insights and knowledge you are gaining will become your new normal. The wisdom is extraordinary, and bringing it into your life is truly transformative. To learn more about Loch Kelly and his teachings and his books, especially The Way of Effortless Mindfulness, visit his website, lochkelly.com. That's www.lochkelly.com. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe so you have immediate access to future episodes. Please give us a 5-star rating and share it with the people you care about. If you'd like to learn more about my work, my mentor Lester Levinson's work, and the Sedona method, please visit sedona.com. As you explore our site, you'll learn the key to lasting happiness, success, peace, and emotional well-being. We have books, courses, events, and plenty of free material to explore. Again, go to sedona.com. That's sedona.com. Thank you for being here, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Letting Go and the Greatest Secret.